This is your daily scripture for December 22nd. My name is Henry Loke. This is God's Feeding Station. It's an honor to be with you today. We are continuing in the book of Zechariah today. We begin our day with Zechariah chapters 2 and 3. And I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then I said, "Where are you going?" And he said to me, "To measure Jerusalem, to see what is its width and what is its length." And behold, the angel who talked with me came forward, and another angel came forward to meet him and said to him, "Run, say to that young man, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as villages without walls, because of the multitude of people and livestock in it. And I will be to her a wall of fire all around, declares the Lord, and I will be the glory in her midst. Up, up, flee from the land of the north, declares the Lord, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heavens, declares the Lord. Up, escape to Zion, you who dwell with the daughter of Babylon. For thus said the Lord of hosts, after his glory sent me to the nations who plundered you. For he who touches you touches the apple of his eye. Behold, I will shake my hand over them, and they shall become plunder for those who serve them. Then you will know that the Lord of hosts has sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for behold, I come, and I will dwell in your midst, declares the Lord. And many nations shall join themselves to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people. And I will dwell in your midst, and you shall know that the Lord of hosts has sent me to you. And the Lord will inherit Judah as his portion in the Holy Land, and will again choose Jerusalem. Be silent, all flesh, before the Lord, for he has roused himself from his holy dwelling. Then he showed me Joshua the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. And the Lord said to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you, O Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this a brand plucked from the fire?" Now Joshua was standing before the angel, clothed with filthy garments. And the angel said to those who were standing before him, "Remove the filthy garments from him." And to him he said, "Behold, I have taken your iniquity away from you, and I will clothe you with pure vestments." And I said, "Let them put a clean turban on his head." So they put a clean turban on his head, and clothed him with garments, and the angel of the Lord was standing by. And the angel of the Lord solemnly assured Joshua, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, if you will walk in my ways and keep my charge, then you shall rule my house and have charge of my courts, and I will give you the right of access among those who are standing here. Hear now, O Joshua, the high priest, and you and your friends who sit before you, for they are men who are a sign. Behold, I will bring my servant, the branch. For behold, on the stone that I have set before Joshua, on a single stone with 7 eyes, I will engrave its inscription, declares the Lord of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of this land in a single day. In that day, declares the Lord of hosts, every one of you will invite his neighbor to come under his vine and under his fig tree." Revelation chapter 13. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea, with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns, and blasphemous names on its heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave his power, and his throne, and great authority. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Also it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given it over every tribe, and people, and language, and nation, and all who dwell on earth will worship it. Everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword he must be slain. Here is a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of people. And by the signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Psalm 141, a psalm of David. O Lord, I call upon you. Hasten to me. Give ear to my voice when I call to you. Let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not let my heart incline to any evil, to busy myself with wicked deeds, in company with men who work iniquity, and let me not eat of their delicacies. Let a righteous man strike me, it is a kindness. Let him rebuke me, it is oil for my head. Let my head not refuse it. Yet my prayer is continually against their evil deeds. When their judges are thrown over the cliff, then they shall hear my words, for they are pleasant. As when one plows and breaks up the earth, so shall our bones be scattered at the mouth of Sheol. But my eyes are toward you, O God, my Lord. In you I seek refuge. Leave me not defenseless. Keep me from the trap that they have laid for me, and from the snares of evildoers. Let the wicked fall into their own nets, while I pass by safely. Proverbs 30:18 through 20. 3 things are too wonderful for me. 4 I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a serpent on a rock, the way of a ship on high seas, and the way of a man with a virgin. This is the way of an adulteress. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wrong. Woe to those who sin and say, I have done no wrong. That's a tough one. That's the thought of that is frightening, to know you have sinned, or to know someone is sinning, and yet they don't know, or don't want to admit it, or don't care to admit it. We have the beast today, the beast and the number and all of this. So we're going to talk about who is the beast, and we'll talk about the number, because those always seem to be the hot topics of this chapter. And again, we're using lifehopeandtruth.com for to kind of help us decipher what's going on here in this prophecy of end times. The symbol of the beasts represents civil governments, and we also see this in the book of Daniel. Daniel had received a vision from God, remember, of 4 beasts. And if we go back to Daniel, we see that the first was like a lion with eagle's wings, the second like a bear, the third was like a leopard, and the fourth with 10 horns, right? That's Daniel 7. Daniel was told that the beasts were symbolic of 4 kingdoms, and history revealed that the beasts of Daniel were the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, and the Roman empires. Now, the characteristic of the beast in Revelation is, again, hostility against God and the people of God. John was told in Revelation 11 that when the 2 witnesses finished their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit will make war against them, overpower them, and kill them. In Revelation 13:7, we read that this beast will make war with the saints and overcome them, and the beast will have the power to kill those who do not do his bidding and will blaspheme God. Now, we're going to talk about Daniel in conjunction with this and come to hopefully a better understanding. When Daniel started writing during the time of the Babylonian Empire, remember, he and his friends were part of the exile. God revealed to him that the first of these four kingdoms that we just previously mentioned, the Medes and the Persians, would be the next to come to power. After this would be the Empire of Greece. But what would the fourth beast represent? And it was, again, if we go back to Daniel 7, it's dreadful, it's terrible, it's exceedingly strong, it's different from all the other kingdoms, it would devour the whole earth. The answer to students of history, and especially those around the first century, it was obvious, right? The Roman Empire was the fourth beast spoken of by Daniel, because by this time, the Roman Empire had crushed basically every other political power in that area. And so when the book of Revelation is written near the end of the first century, some of these the documents that showed the persecution the empire directed against God's people, they're talking about the Roman Empire. And the early believers concluded that the beast John was talking about was the Roman Empire, which obviously dominated the world at that time. Now, during the time of the New Testament, several Roman emperors displayed these characteristics, right? In Revelation 13, powerful, great authority, military strength, persecuting God's people, blasphemy against God, claiming to be God through emperor worship, great persecutions of the church and Christians. We know about the feeding of the lions and all the stuff that went on in the Colosseums that were built and the stadiums that were built at the time. Everything was there, right? All the elements are there. And the words of the prophecy were meant to encourage them and to get them to hold firm and not to be deceived or pressured into turning away from God. So in some sense, we had, again, a kind of a partial fulfillment of this prophecy. And I think it's a little glimpse into, for those who want to look back on it, it's a glimpse into what's coming. I think God gives us glimpses of these things so that we can have an idea and be, encouraged in a sense that, these prophecies continue to come true, and we can trust in God that, if these prophecies come true, then what God says comes true, and then what God is saying about future events will also come true. He will hold to his word. So the beast's agenda corresponds to that of the dragon, and we know that the dragon is Satan. He's the deceiver of the whole world. The beast in Revelation 13 will carry out this deception. There's a mortal wound, apparently, that is a healing. Life, Hope, and Truth calls it a deception. It produces amazement and leaves the people wanting to worship the dragon and the beast because of this supposed healing of this mortal wound. It could be a real thing. It could be something that's faked and passed off as reality. Kind of an interesting thought. I don't think I ever thought of it that way, that it would be a great hoax purported on the entire population. The beast has authority for 42 months, and by the end of that time, all who are not of God will worship it, will worship the beast. And it seems like these prophecies apply to a personality who will provoke a great civil war, whether it's as we know it, or financial or religious power will be involved with it. Again, it's all supposition, trying to kind of make heads or tails of what is being said here in Revelation. The dragon's goal, persecuting Christians, is also evident here. The beast opens his mouth in blasphemy against God. He blasphemes his name. He blasphemes his temple. He blasphemes those who dwell in heaven. And then we have the persecution of Christians that is explicitly mentioned in verse 7. But it, again, as God has shown in his word, there's always redemption on the backside of all of this. And the goal for us, as it was for those in Babylon, as it was for those in Assyria, we have to have endurance. We have to be faithful. we have to realize that the book of Revelation is not a call to arms. And I know, people who are listening, I'm not saying I'm not anti-gun. I personally am not anti-gun. If you have weapons to hunt with, if you have weapons for self-protection, whatever, that's up to you. But it is not a call to arms, to arm up and battle against what's coming. It's a call for patience, endurance, and faithfulness, and trusting in God. That's what this is about. This is not a call to, build up the armory so that you can go to war with these people. That's not what this is about. And I know people will want to do that. The number of people that are armed in this nation is incredible. And the majority are law-abiding people. I have no issues with it, but this is not what's going on in Revelation. Is not there to call us to arm up, right? This is not what is being said here. We'll have false teaching at this time. Jesus talked about it in Matthew 24. He talks about false Christ, false prophets. They will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Really important to heed this warning, to be aware of what's going on, to be watchers on the wall. And again, the strongest of warnings here is given to people who worship this beast. There's a threat there's the threat, not a threat, the threat of receiving God's wrath. So and we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. In Revelation 14, it talks about if anybody worships the beast, receives the mark, which we haven't yet talked about. And I know we're running out of time today. The wrath of God will come upon them full strength. And that is not going to be a good thing. And that is going to be the hardest thing to avoid, because if those who do not have the mark are going to have to go kind of black market shopping. We will not have the ability to buy or sell. And that's going to be hard when you're trying to keep food on the table, right? Live a life and survive. But, the bottom line is we're going to have two choices here. Just as there were two choices for the Christian in John's time. We either worship God, we worship the beast. And that's an everyday thing, even now. We either worship God or we worship the beast. We can't have a foot in the world and a foot in the kingdom. It doesn't work that way. We have to be all in. And that's the issue here. We have to be faithful and start working on this now. When these times come, we have to be ready for them. The number 666, really quickly. We have again, and a lot of people look at this as the microchip thing that's going on in certain parts of the world right now, where people are accepting chips in their arms, hands for like work and jobs and that kind of stuff. It could be a kind of a forewarning of what's coming. I'm not sure if it's going to be microchips or a tattoo. I have no idea what this is really going to look like, but that. Again, whatever form it takes, we have to resist it. There are so many different ideas on this number. Again, people will be required to have the mark or the name somewhere in order to buy or sell. And the number identifies the beast, that it is a man's name who is also called the beast, and that it will authorize people to make economic transactions. So what does it mean? How do you calculate the number? A guy named Albert Barnes, in his notes on Revelation, explains that the Greek letters had numerical values, several names including, and again, this is in Latin, Neron Caesar, Diocles Augustus, C.F. Julianus, Caesar, Atheus, the apostate, Luther, Romanus, and Roman all add up to 666, right? When you apply the numerical values. There are a lot of other possibilities, Barnes goes on to say, and he says it's just amazing how many obvious solutions refer to Rome. Now, what does that mean? I have no idea. Some people are going to point to the Catholic Church. I'm not saying that. I think that, given these explanations, these letters, the Bible, I think the Bible talks about somewhat of a revival of the the Roman Empire. If we remember the dream that's given to Nebuchadnezzar, again, we talked about these four great kingdoms, the last one being the Roman Empire. And after, and later Daniel is shown, that's in Daniel 2. In Daniel 7, he's shown a vision of four beasts, which also represent those four world ruling empires that we talked about. Now this fourth beast had 10 horns, symbol of power, and it's used as an emblem or a symbol of great things in Daniel. And Daniel wrote in verse 8 in chapter 7, he said, I'm considering the horns. There's another horn, a little one coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there in this horns were eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking pompous words. And then we have this thing in Revelation today about how they're talking about, how he blasphemes God and blasphemes his temple and blasphemes all these things. These horns, again, represent kingdoms. And going back to the pompous words and the blasphemy, there's this correlation, right? So we get to these horns representing kingdoms in history that would be part of the Roman Empire, and possibly the little horn representing some subset of the power in that system. Now, one can interpret this, you can interpret this in a lot of different ways. What is that little power? Is it another religion? Is it another economic power? Is it a smaller country that rises to great prominence because of, they have certain weapons or whatever? I don't know. All we know is this fourth beast is going to have multiple revivals, and this final appearance will be, and we know that there's going to be a religious side of this. There's going to be a one world government, one world religion. So we know there's a religious piece to this, and it's going to be in existence during this term. So, when this beast arises to power at the end of this age, the most important thing that we have to do is remain close to God. Right? We have to be lovers of truth. We have to have faith in Christ. And, understanding these prophecies will not save you. The only thing that's going to save us is our relationship to God, and to make sure that we stand firm and trust in Him, regardless of what's going on around us. All right, I've rambled on enough. Thanks for listening, and I hope you're having a great day, and God willing, we'll talk again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.